Welcome to Relationship Equity, a podcast that explores how successful people cultivate meaningful connections with others in their personal and professional lives. Learn from the stories, insights, and advice of leaders, innovators, and influencers who have built strong bonds with their teams, their customers, their communities, and their families. Here's Richard Walker.
So I'm back with Michael Jones, the president and CEO of Delta Dental of Arizona. In part one, he shared his journey from growing up in the inner city of Chicago with a single mother to leading a major healthcare organization. Michael, I mentioned servant leadership in part one because I think you embody it. I'd love to hear a definition of what it really means. You know, in 2024, these are astounding numbers. Your team logged 950 volunteer hours across 27 community events. You know, that doesn't happen by accident. It shows people are following your lead. How do you make that possible?
Well, thank you. First of all, I'm flattered that you bring that up. These things happen first and foremost through a tremendous amount of work and support by an organization that's behind me and that believes in where we're going, what we're doing, and the vision that I've set for the organization. And so through our foundation at the Delta Dental of Arizona Foundation, first we look to show and demonstrate a commitment to Arizona, especially with the state's underserved and underinsured who need help. These are people that may not have access to proper health, particularly dental and vision that we focus on right now. And guess what? They need it. And so this also wraps in this definition of servant leadership. So when I think about servant leadership, Richard, I first think about being selfless. That is not focused on, what can I do and how can I build myself up and what's going to benefit me and me only. You got to think about how it benefits someone else, which frankly just goes back to just who I am and how I was raised. I was raised to care and think about your fellow man. I appreciated the value of a hand up because I've been in that position before, growing up in the inner city, in the projects of Chicago. And so I understand how important it is to be able to provide that and also not to write people off. You never know who's going to be that next person to ascend and do wonderful things wherever. And so I look at it as part of my job and part of my responsibility to nurture that in someone else. And it starts with, how do you help them? How do you give them basic essential needs? And then how do you put them in positions where they can get skill sets, get exposure, get educated, whatever it might be that will ultimately help them.
And you know what that does? It helps Delta Dental of Arizona earn the platinum level recognition as Healthy Arizona Worksite, one of the best places to work. I mean, that's the result of that.
It's an honor, Richard. We don't lead with doing these things to get awards. We lead and do these things because we know that people need help out there. And when you look at what's happening throughout our country, so much is the antithesis of that. The heck with what someone else needs, get your own. Well, what happened to being able to look at and help your fellow man in times when they need it, And so that's what we do. And establishing that, creating that culture in our organization was extremely important to me. And it's one of the primary reasons why I took this opportunity. And you start doing that by, first and foremost, you make it simple. You don't overcomplicate the approach. You lay out a strategy, you communicate what that strategy is, and then more importantly, you model it and you hold people accountable for it. So if you want that, those are the things that you have to do. you also have to show what I would consider unwavering commitment
Yeah.
around driving that particular culture. So if
Right.
you want a culture of servant leadership, giving back, or if you want a culture of whatever it might be, that your leadership has to be unwavering in doing that. And the last thing I'll say about that is, which I believe is very important to our success and what we've done as an organization, and personally, what I've been able to accomplish on my personally myself was you. There has to be some non-negotiables.
Right.
You have to look at things and say, what am I not willing to do to achieve a goal or do something, or what am I not willing to tolerate? So, for example, in an organization, as a CEO that is responsible for the vision and moving the organization forward and being the cultural coach, if you will,
Yeah.
I have to ask myself what are non-negotiables, and I have them.
Right.
And it's guess what? Cultural offenders, people
Yeah.
that go against the grain of
The
the
vision of the mission. Yeah.
own and our mission and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Then you will never fit here, right?
Right.
Are
Right.
there are there integrity violators, or those are things that are extremely important to what we do, and we make sure that that everyone is held accountable and they do those basic things. So
So let's talk about that for a second, because, as the CEO of an organization, you are responsible for the company culture. You're responsible for everything, for the top line, for the bottom line, for community of culture, everything. The book stops with you. How do you balance who you are and the approach that you take to help everybody achieve the goals that they've got set for themselves with making really tough business decisions? Let's face it, I got to do the same thing. Sometimes you have to balance the the your own personal beliefs with what the business needs. How somebody that's as empathetic as you are make tough business decisions?
well, it's a great question, and let me see if I can provide some wisdom on that topic. First of all, it's not easy. It is difficult, and that's not to say that my own personal core values are not aligned with our businesses, because they are. When you're the if you're fortunate enough to become a leader in an organization and get to lead it, it's really about a marriage of those two components: company
Right.
culture, your own personal core values. And so that's the first thing. Nevertheless, there are still tough decisions to be made, and that's one of the first staples of leadership, Richard, as you know, is leaders make
Yep.
tough calls. That's why you've been given the opportunity,
Yep.
the honor of being a leader, because you've demonstrated that you're willing, not only willing to make the tough calls, but you've demonstrated a history of making the right call based upon what's in the best interest of the company, what's aligned with the vision, how
Yep.
is this going to impact people, right? And so you have to look at
Right.
those things and you weigh them all. And ultimately, sometimes you do make decisions that will impact people, and you have to, I think, look at a few key things, or at least be prepared to manage a few key things when you do that. And that is starting with one, um, always treat and treat people with respect and dignity. And so
Yep.
whatever you do, you can make tough calls relative to people, their careers, and so on and so forth. How do you treat people in that moment? Do you
Yeah.
cast people aside as though they're useless and they're just a tool to facilitate what you want done? Or do you honor and respect the person, knowing and putting yourself in their position, knowing that, wow, this is going to be tough on them? What, where, and how can I at least show compassion and respect them? Two, you ask yourself, well, if there is an impact on a person, then what can you do to lessen the blow,
Right.
or to help them through that process? You, again, you don't turn your back on someone that's given their time to an organization, and then just ignore the fact that they need help. And then three, you do what you can to see what you can do to help them during a transition or going forward. Then this is extremely important, and this is where I think a lot of people don't pay enough attention to the relationship
Yep.
component of things, because oftentimes people are short-sighted when they think of relationships with people. And frankly, I think most people need to take a much broader, longer view of the relationships with people. Let me try to tie this together.
Yeah. Right.
You will
Please.
know this would be true when I say it. People you meet today, you never know where and how your relationships will cross again later.
Yep.
2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you never know. So
Right.
imagine a situation where you got a peer and a colleague and you're working together, or you're on a company and you're on a board with an organization or some kind of committee. It could be a church committee, whatever it is.
Yep.
And you've taken the time to build that relationship, but things have to go different ways. You don't burn the bridge, right? Because you never know, several years later you may be in a different organization, they're in a different organization, you want maybe business with that organization, or you need to formulate a collaborative relationship or partnership with that other organization. How you handled that transition and how you,
Yep.
if you
Yep.
will, balance the needs of what you needed to do versus what those people needed to do will be the key in the success in the future. And that's what I believe is missed, but that's something that I try to be attentive to, and how that's part of my success formula of balancing those company needs and those oftentimes tough decisions that impact employees.
Would you say that the people who really maximize their relationships are the ones who think long term? It's a stupid question because it's an obvious answer. Because there's so many people that I can think of that uh, they think short term, here and now, and what's in it for me now,
Right.
and and think of it as, the relationships are bidirectional, and sometimes they might be able to help you more than you can help them, but vice versa, and not asking for anything in return. It's not a quid pro quo. It's, if you need my help, whatever it is, I'm going to help you and not ask for anything in return. And
Yeah,
I think
that's
too many people that don't quite grasp that are the ones that really lose out on what authentic relationships truly are.
100% said very well. They're missing out. They're missing out on the true value of having people where you've established deep connections with them that go beyond just this one transactional moment in time. People that, they become your friends and colleagues, and perhaps even vacation buddies, or dinner partners, or what have you. Yeah, they're absolutely missing
Yeah.
the wonderful part of that, frankly, part of life, that it's not just about work, but it's taking time to
Right.
enjoy things. Who are
Yeah.
you enjoying them with?
Right.
Right. So it's an important part for me, which is why I focus on those things.
So one of the things I talked about this morning when I was on the guest when I was a guest on the Genesis Works podcast was that so many people in my life that have helped me be where I am today, that I would love to go back and thank them, but I didn't realize at the time. I was too young, too naive to truly understand the impact they're having on my life. Now, there have been people I've been able to track down and I have been able to thank, but there's so many that I in the youth service that I'd love to go back to and thank them for what they did for me at the time, because I didn't know how truly impactful it was.
Sure.
Can you think about early in your life, early in your career? Are there
Yeah.
any people that stand out that did that for you, and what specifically did they do?
Well, I'll say this for those that you can't go. And you're right, right. When you're young, you don't always understand the
Right,
comprehensive, life
right,
changing impacts that people have in your life. And even if you can't go back and thank them, you can pay it forward and do it with someone else. So
exactly.
that's something I always think about. Nevertheless, I do think of the few people that have put into me, and in particular, I go way back to when I was my first job out of undergrad when I was an engineer. My supervisor, his name is Scott, and he was someone that made a great impression on me. Tremendously talented, very good at his job. He always spent time connecting with others. I
Right.
noticed, and he certainly connected with me. He was the type of guy, he moved in and out of circles very easily, being able to relate to people also at all levels, right? I like to think of it as boardroom to the mailroom. He demonstrated he not only demonstrated competency in his work, but he also cared for everyone that he came across that came across him. And so I learned that from him. I learned okay, first and
Um,
foremost, you need to be competent at your work, right? Because if you're not competent at your work, then that's a showstopper right there. You don't even get the opportunity to build the relationships that are critical to your success, but also the immeasurable value of being a good leader and a relationship builder. That's something that I learned from him.
and you may well have already answered this, but what would you say the best
Oh,
relationship advice, business or personal, that you've ever received, either earlier in your career, and what you think
yeah,
about that?
yeah. No, another great question there, Richard. And I want you to think about it because I want to hear what your
Yeah,
answer is as well. But
yeah,
first and
yeah,
foremost, I did mention this a little earlier. It's the concept of never burning bridges, right?
yeah,
Never burn
yeah,
bridges because you never know what and how paths will cross later. Treat everyone with respect
yeah,
and dignity, regardless of their role. That's important because a lot of people, they focus on titles. And if a person has a certain title
yeah,
or it's a VP or something like and above, then they honor and they admire them and they lavish all this praise on them.
yeah,
But you walk into a place
yeah,
and you don't even talk to, well, I'm
yeah,
really dating myself now. There's not a lot of them left around, but you don't speak to the switchboard operator in the company office when you first come in. Yeah, see, you know what I'm talking about. But
yes, have you?
those things are important, right? A quick aside: when we interview people, particularly if it's a role that's reporting directly into me, I have them
Mhm.
interface with my senior executive assistant. After all the interviews, we of course we do our debriefing, but I ask her, what was that person's behavior toward you? How did they
Yes,
treat is
yeah,
there respect given? Is there
yeah,
this condescending perspective that they give to you because you're so on and so forth and admin? Those things are so important and people blow it constantly.
yeah,
Constantly. At any rate, I mentioned the title thing, and I'll just say just because someone has a great title doesn't mean they're a good person,
yeah,
doesn't mean a person of character and integrity, but character and integrity does matter. So those are some of the best relationship
yeah.
advice tidbits that I have learned, I've received, and I give other people. And I tell them to work on them, cultivate relationships, take time to do it.
I wish I had a better, more brilliant answer, but I don't. My answer would have been exactly that. Treat everybody the same way, authentically the same. Don't pretend to. I mean, I've said this before, and people will say about me, I treat everybody with the same disrespect. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Well, at least you're an equal opportunity guy.
I'm an equal opportunity disrespecter, Michael. And the more I know you, the better I know you, and the more shit I'm going to give you because I expect the
Right.
same back as well. It's such an important thing that I cannot overstress, and I've seen it so many times when people deem somebody to be more important, so they'll treat them differently than somebody they do. One of
Right.
the things I never do, mate, I'll tell you this story. You like this one? So my former next door neighbor is the most brilliant man I know. He's a trauma surgeon, digs bullets out of people's heads for a living. I mean, the guy's absolutely brilliant. And I was with him at some social event, and I heard him, and he's, by his own admission, socially awkward. Guy's brilliant, but he's socially awkward, and he'll tell you that as the first thing he'll tell you. I don't like being in groups of people that I don't know because I get nervous, and he tends to babble. And the first question, his first question is that he always asks somebody. He always asks them what they do for a living. Afterwards, we had a chat, and I said, I call him Slice Man, not because of his golf game, because he slices people open for a living. So Slice Man, I said, I never asked that question. He said, why not? I said, because it can come across, it can be perceived differently. He's the most humble human you'll ever meet. So he never meets it with, because if people, they answer and they,
I know where
they
you're going.
say they do a manual labor job, and then they ask him what he does, and he says, well, I'm a trauma surgeon. There
Right.
can be a social little, hierarchical thing there right off the bat.
Yes.
And he
Yes.
was distraught when I said that to him, because he said, oh my God, that's never my intention. And it never is, because he's a wonderful human. But he said, I've never asked that question ever again, ever. If it makes sense, if it comes out in conversation. But he's very naturally curious. He wants to know. He wants to know about people's, what do they do for a living, not because he wants to put himself above them. He just wants to understand.
Understand.
So
Right. Right.
when it comes out, so that's a question. I don't ask that question. In fact, you like this. There's a fellow called David Young. I don't know whether you ever run across David. David's a VP, is at Cargill now. He's an IT executive. The guy's brilliant. For 4 years, we were teammates playing golf. 4 years. And one day he asked me, what do you do for a living? I said, well, I own an IT consulting shop. He said, you're an idiot. I'm a leader over, he was at Target at the time. I'm a leader at Target. Why the hell have you not told me what you do? Well, because it wasn't about business. It was about
Right.
humanity. It was about golf. It was about, now, of course, that led to business,
Right.
but you see where I'm going with that. And if you
Absolutely.
don't ask the questions that people might be intimidated by. There are wonderful humans that don't do what you would perceive to be high level jobs, and there are those with big titles that I would not consider wonderful humans. And to me, the two things are separate. Now, some are intertwined. Some people,
Correct.
I don't feel like I even work. I love what I do because it's about people. Technology is secondary. It's about people. But people often associate their value relative to the job they have and the work they do.
Right. Right. No, I hear you. And it's an interesting example of social dynamics, right? Because you're absolutely,
Yes.
once people hear, oh,
Yes.
title, they start, well, how should I treat them as a result of this or as a result of that? And frankly, I rarely ask that question too, for that very reason, because I really don't like to answer that question either. Because before I answer that question, I
Right.
want to see, are you being authentic and you giving me the honor and respect
Yeah.
that I deserve for being the human that I am? That dictates to me
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
I will go further with you and do business, frankly,
Yeah.
not
Right.
because how
Yeah.
much,
Yeah.
because you learn about my title, then you're going to do certain things.
Yeah.
I-
Let me tell you how I answer that question. When somebody first meets me, they don't know who I am. They ask me, so what do you do for a living? Here's my answer. I just hire really intelligent people and make money from their really hard work. That's what I do. So I blow it off. I don't answer the question. And why? Because I don't want to be pigeonholed, and I don't want to be, perceived value attached to my title and my role. I don't want that. I want them to get to know me as a human, and not because of what I do and the title I hold and
100%.
blah blah
And
blah.
it gets tougher and tougher the higher and higher you go, of course. I hear you. I hear you on that.
Now let's
So
switch gears completely here. I do want to
yeah,
hear about you. I mean, you have a civil engineering degree. You grew up through technology, and you're very much technology, business technologies. Let's just say that. How are you using for the technologists and the IT professors that are listening to this now? How are you using technology to drive your business forwards, Michael?
I'm going to answer that in two different ways. First of all, it's the how have I leverage the technical skills that I developed as an engineer to where I
Right.
am now. And the answer to that is very simply this: it's not so much about the technology that I've learned, it's about a mental model of how you think and how you behave and how you process and
Yeah.
diagnose complex problems. Engineering is about solving complex problems. Guess what I do now? I
Yeah.
solve
Right.
complex problems. If they were
Yes.
easy, anyone can do them.
Yeah.
But
Right.
so that's how I leverage that background and those skills right
Yep.
now, the
Yep.
CEO. And then the second part, well, how are we using technology? Well, in a lot of different ways that a lot of different healthcare organizations are using them today. What, where, and how do you use data for insights, decision making,
Yep.
reporting information, getting reporting information so that you can make those types of decisions that you need to understand what's going on in your business or
Right.
competition, so on and so forth. We're beginning to do some AI work where we're looking at everything from how can AI help improve our responsiveness to our stakeholders, to how can AI help us with identifying fraudulent claims,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
And so there's a whole host of ways that information technology is very valuable and needed in businesses. And so there's no shortage of opportunities, I would say, out there in any type of organization. The beautiful thing about information technology is it spans all industries,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what industry you're
Right.
in,
It doesn't.
everyone can leverage information technology. And so I'm leveraging it to this moment today.
I like the use of the term there, because I think what a lot of people, they kind of ignore, they focus on the technology word and not information, because
Mm.
information is everything. You have to have the right information to start with.
Yes,
And the technology, to me, is secondary. There's many different kinds of
that's
technology,
correct.
but your
Correct.
information is everything. Because if you don't have the right information, or if it's not clean, then you you got a lot of wasted time and money.
Yeah,
So it
that's
starts with the right information.
well, and I'll offer this up too for our technologists out there. One of the worst mistakes that you can make is try to advance the use of technology just because it's technology.
Right.
You
Yeah.
want to be successful,
Yeah.
you must
Yeah.
connect business results, business
Yeah.
vision, business strategy, and
Yeah.
how technology can help you achieve those things.
And
But
not the other way around.
it's not the other way around. It's one of the
Yeah.
biggest mistakes I've seen throughout my career,
Yeah.
back when I was a CIO there. So
Yeah. It's a really interesting Dan, because I live between the business leaders and the technologists, and it's fascinating because, let's face it, some business leaders, they're they know enough to be dangerous as it relates to technology. Some don't realize that it is actually dangerous, because they think they know more than they actually do. But that relationship, the other thing that to me, I can't stress enough, technology is the business. We've talked about technology in the business.
yeah, that's
Now,
right.
there are there are there are non-technology business executives, and then there are technology executives, but there's still executives at that same table, and the community and the information flow is so important. And think about this now. There are so many C-level people and business executives on an airplane right now reading something that says, "Oh, you've got to use AI to drive the business." And they don't
Right,
really know what that means. And so then they'll call the CIO and say, "We got to use AI to drive the business." But
right.
they don't really know how and why and what that really means. They just read something on a
That's right.
magazine on a plate.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, misguided use of. I heard a little something. I don't want to be left behind, so let's go do it. Right.
Right. And don't get me wrong, in my not so humble opinion, companies that are not using AI to help drive the business forward are going to get left behind in this day and
Oh,
age. I mean, it's
100%. That's right. At the end of the day, what we're saying here is know why you're going to do something and be intentional. So just like anything else, leverage the tool that's there. Make sure you know why you're leveraging it and how it aligns and will drive your business results forward. Then go all in.
Right, you know me, I keep things very simple because I've got a small brain. So you like this. This is actually, funnily enough, the second AI event that we had was at your old place. It was at the National, what's now, because what was it, National Manor? I think it moved to
Yes.
be the match while you were
Mhm.
there. Now it's back to NMDP. So we we had a follow-up event there, and I was the MC for the event again, and I took some questions, and one of the questions, I'll just simplify it, was, is AI going to improve the world? Is it going to improve businesses, or is it going to blow it up? My answer was this, Michael. Okay, let me tell you this.
Love those binary questions.
Yeah, right.
Like there's no in between, right?
Like yeah, exactly. Literally a loaded question. So here's my answer to that. So I thought, okay, I'll use my small brain and my experience to answer that. I said, let me tell you this. When I was on the building site, when I was a young man, often I had to use a big jackhammer to bust up concrete. Now, if I use that tool correctly, I bust up concrete. If I wasn't paying attention, I blow my own foot off. You've got to see AI like anything else. If you use it appropriately and correctly, you'll achieve the intended result. If you don't, then you might blow your own foot off. And that applies really to any technology. But that was my simple answer to that.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Well, Michael, we could talk for another 4 hours here, and we don't have the time. I can't believe the hour's gone by this fast. I can't thank you enough for your insights. Hopefully, people have learned a lot from your experiences, and I look forward to next time we catch up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Richard. It's always great to talk to you, and you're right. We could be chatting about this for the next few hours, but other duties call. So
yeah. Well, thanks a lot, man. I very much appreciate it. Yeah, have fun down there in the warm weather.
We will. My best. Take care now.
Cheers.
This has been Relationship Equity. If you want to take your career, your business, or your personal relationships to the next level, reach out to Richard at yorksolutions.net. You can also get Richard's book, Relationship Equity, your cornerstone investment to great gains in business and life, on Amazon now. Relationship Equity with Richard Walker is a production of Forbes Books.